I'd like to call to order the Sparks City Council meeting of September 24th, 2012 with a roll call, please.
Mayor Martini?
Here.
Council members Ratty? Here. Lawson?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
Kerrigan?
Here.
Schmidt?
Here.
City Manager Carey?
Here.
City Attorney Adams?
Here.
City Clerk Patterson is here. We have quorum.
Okay, if you'd all stand for the invocation, we have Pastor Kyle Bateson from the Living Stones Church. Welcome, Pastor.
How y'all doing? Welcome. Thanks. My name's Kyle. I'm the pastor of Living Stones Church. We meet at Mendive Middle School right now, 10 a.m. So it's an honor to be here. I want to say thanks to you guys for leading this place, making it a great place to live. So please join me in a word of prayer. God, it is awesome that we get to be here, that you give us life. Thank you for letting us live in such a great city. But we need your help. We are imperfect people. Our decisions are imperfect. And so would you give these leaders wisdom to make decisions? We know that you love this city more than anybody ever could. We know that you love the people who live here more than anybody ever could. So please be here now. Guide our decisions. Guide this whole process. Put anybody who's anxious at ease for your glory. We say this all in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for those kind words, Pastor. Appreciate it. If you'd remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Schmidt, would you lead us, please? Please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is comments from the public. Anybody want to speak under comments from the public? I have no speaking cards. Okay, let's move on to approval of the agenda. Anybody want to take anything out of order? If not, looking for a motion. Mr. Schmidt.
Motion to approve agenda is outlined.
Mr. Smith.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Schmidt, seconded by Councilman Smith to approve the agenda as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passed unanimously. 3.1, consideration and possible approval of the minutes of the regular Sparks City Council meeting of September 10th, 2012. Any additions or deletions? Okay, looking for a motion. Mr. Lawson.
Move to approve.
Ms. Ratty.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Ratty to approve the minutes of September 10th, 2012, as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passed unanimously. Let's move on to announcements and presentations. First of all, we have a proclamation for Family Day, a day to eat with your children. Is there someone here to accept this, or are we just going to read it? Just going to read it? Okay. City of Sparks proclamation. Whereas the use of illegal and prescription drugs and the abuse of alcohol and the nicotine constitute the greatest threats to the well-being of American children, and whereas 17 years of surveys conducted by the National Center on Addiction and Substance Abuse, CASA, at Columbia University have consistently found that the more often children and teenagers eat dinner with their families, the less likely they are to smoke, drink, and use illegal drugs. And whereas frequent family dining is associated with lower rates of teen smoking, drinking, illegal drug use, and prescription drug abuse. And whereas the correlation between frequent family dinners and reduced risk for teen substance abuse is well documented. And whereas parents who are engaged in their children's lives through such activities as frequent family dinners are less likely to have children who abuse substances. And whereas family dinners have long constituted a substantial pillar of family life in America. Now therefore I, Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim the 24th day of September 2012 as Family Day, a day to eat dinner with your children, and urge all citizens to recognize and participate in this observance. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to 4.2, Proclamation for Fire Prevention Week. Chief and Chief. Thank you, gentlemen. City of Sparks proclamation. Excuse me. Whereas the City of Sparks is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living and visiting our community. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. And whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half. And whereas first responders for the City of Sparks are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas the 2012 Fire Prevention Week theme, Have 2 Ways Out, effectively serves to remind us to develop and practice a home fire escape plan during Fire Prevention Week year-round. Now, therefore, I, Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim October 7th through the 13th, 2012 as Fire Prevention Week, and urge everyone to protect their homes and families by heeding the potentially life-saving messages of Fire Prevention Week 2012, and to support the many activities and efforts of the City of Sparks Fire and Emergency Services. Then I'll do the other one, then I'll hand them both to you. Is that
Thank you, Mayor.
okay? Okay, next we have official day of recognition for all firefighters who have died in the line of duty. It's a long one. Whereas the United States Congress and the President of the United States have designated the day of annual National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Service as a day to honor firefighters and emergency services personnel who have sacrificed their lives to save others by lowering the American flag on all federal buildings to half-staff. Whereas an average of 100 firefighters courageously make the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty each year. And whereas the events of September 11th, 2001 brought national attention to the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices faced by fire and emergency services personnel on a daily basis. And whereas firefighters and emergency services personnel play an essential role in the protection of lives and property in our local community. Now, therefore, I, Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, now call upon all citizens of the City of Sparks and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the day of October 7th, 2012, in recognition of the patriotic service and dedicated efforts of our fire and emergency services personnel by lowering American flags on all our buildings to half-staff. I encourage appropriate services and ceremonies in which all of our citizens may participate to honor fire and emergency services personnel past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to duties have rendered invaluable service to our community and its citizens. I further call upon citizens of the City of Sparks to remember all fire and emergency personnel who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community and to pay respect to their survivors of our fallen heroes.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for allowing us to say something about National Fire Prevention Week. The theme this year, having 2 ways out, goes perfectly with our Project Safe smoke alarm program that we have continuing to work in the community. We're still doing that program, and we'll continue to do that program as long as we can continue getting the funding for it. So this year, as you know, we've received our 3rd grant for that, and so our 3rd installation period will happen after the first of the year, and it'll work perfectly with this theme. And with that, we'll be kicking off National Fire Prevention Week with our 23rd annual pancake breakfast. If you want to put this up on the, which we like to invite all of the public out to. It's on October 6th. It's from 8 till noon at main headquarters station on Victorian Avenue, 1605 Victorian Avenue. It's a great event. We have static displays, live demonstrations, tours of the fire station. Kids can come and see Sparky. It's just a great event for the public to come out, visit with the firefighters, and learn more about the services that we provide for the community.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. Mayor, members of the council, Andy Flock, Sparks Fire Chief for the record. I want to thank you once again for recognizing those firefighters that have lost their lives in what is still considered one of the most dangerous professions one can choose. I also want to thank each and every one of you for providing the necessary funding for us to get the best training and the best safety equipment necessary for us to perform our jobs in a safe and efficient manner. Our heartfelt thoughts and prayers as a fire department go out to all those firefighters, their family members that have lost loved ones in this profession. I and the members of the fire department also once again want to say thank you for your recognition of these firefighters. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Moving right along, 4.4, presentation on the BLAST program business license web update. Chris Severson.
Okay. Good afternoon. Chris Severson, Employee and Customer Relations Manager, and
Richard Brown, Senior Systems Analyst.
good afternoon. We're here today to make a presentation on the business license update with the BLAST program. As you may recall, we implemented the BLAST program earlier this year, Chet? I don't remember the date exactly. March of this year. And it was an attempt to take a focus on business licensing. We had a serious delinquency problem, and there were several goals. And Rich, if you could, our goal was to collect delinquent fees and to protect citizens and other business owners in the community. The first was to protect Sparks businesses from unfair competition from unlicensed businesses, and the second goal was to protect citizens from fire and environmental dangers of uninspected and unlicensed businesses as well. We're doing well with that. The initial problem presented itself. We had 691 business license accounts that were delinquent. So that was our big, kind of our big ugly that we needed to deal with. From the initial 691, 232 were renewed, 276 were retired, and 183 were pending, or we haven't heard anything from the businesses despite numerous actions. So we are going to go ahead and close those on our own. And a total of $665,358 was collected in delinquencies and in business license fees. So I think it was a great success. Since the big push to collect the licenses, more have become delinquent. So this is not something that ever really goes away. I do think that over a year's time period, we will be able to get most of them. Over the last couple of years, a lot of businesses kind of fell into a hole or went out of business, and then we never heard anything from them. So at least we're getting to close them out and to get the system more current. But we need to stay on top of it. So one way is through a program that Rich has developed, and it's called the Business License Online Lookup Tool, and that's really what we're here today for. So,
Okay. Fortunately, mine is pretty simple, so I won't take up too much time. I'll pull it up for you guys. So from our existing website, all you got to do to get to the new tool is go to businesses and then business licensing. And then once you're at the business licensing page, you'll notice in our menu over here we have one new option called business license listings. This is going to be the default view of it. And so what we've done here is we've broken up our current business licenses into 3 separate lists. Active licenses, which are our licenses that are good and current. Grace period licenses, which are licenses that have hit their expiration, but we're giving them the 30 days. And then the third view is going to be delinquent licenses, and those are licenses that have passed their 30-day grace period. So the list, for the most part, looks the same across the different things. The only difference is the color coding. So if you click over to grace period listings, They're all flagged as yellow. Delinquent is all flagged as red. Another aspect of this particular tool is the sort by. So, for example, if we wanted to see the oldest expired license in the city, whoops, that didn't work out quite as well as I'd hoped it would. Minor glitch, I'll have to sort that out a little bit later. Let me see if I can show the oldest issued. There, that works. So using the sort, you can see, for example, like the Sparks of June issued in 1909. So those are how far back we can go and look at our current licenses. Another thing we can do on this one is, so if you don't want to have to dig through each of the individual pages, you can just say, I want to see all the businesses on Prater. And there shows up everything that exists on Prater. We have quite a few businesses on that street, so this is a pretty big list. And it's also intermingled in here as you're going to have current licenses, licenses that are delinquent, soon to expire. If I can just get one of those pages that actually shows that. There you go. So it's a good way to look and see where businesses' licenses sit. So for the public, they can go and they can take a look and really drill down and see what they want to see. Now, in the event they can't find a business or they know of a business that's operating without a license, there's a link at the bottom of the page that says can't find a business or want to submit a complaint. And what that does is that takes them to this form that they can fill out and submit, and that goes to our customer service team with the basic information they've given them for their complaint. And that's about it in a nutshell.
Could you show the Starbucks, search for Starbucks?
Sure,
and
sure.
narrow that in?
Yeah. Go back. So if they wanted to search for Starbucks, there's a listing of all the Starbucks we currently have in the city. Now, if this list were a little bit bigger, say you're searching for everything on Prater, but say you just wanted to see the Starbucks on Los Altos, it does a pretty good job of narrowing it down a little bit.
So the reason that we wanted to share this one is this is a great new tool, and also I think you can see it's got a lot of functionality. At the customer service counter, we get a lot of calls during the day. I need to know the owner of a business. I need to look up a business. Can you tell me if somebody has a current business license? And this is actually, I don't know, maybe 50 times faster than our business license software. So the search capabilities, not only for you, if you're looking up a business or a business owner or someone in the community, but for functionality for our departments is just really tremendously increased. It also can help people like Better Business Bureau that calls the customer service team, probably 5 times a day, saying, can you tell me, who the business is, or is there a business where they can just go on and check themselves. So a lot more functionality. And I wanted Rich to show the Starbucks because you really can narrow the search by just about anything. It's very, very user-friendly in order to look it up. So thank you, Rich.
Yeah, no problem.
Any questions?
Questions? Mr. Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Great job. I really think that's light years ahead of where we've been on being able to do things on up. So I really appreciate the ingenuity and the leadership to get that done. Do we still have any way of tracking businesses that are operating without licenses without a formal complaint from somebody yet?
We have several different ways that businesses operating without a license come into our team. What we don't have is a rigorous enforcement team. And so we'll be working on that. If you can go back to the presentation, Rich.
So those numbers, and I'm assuming all those numbers that you had are the ones that have applied for a business license in the past? And
Yes.
just hadn't renewed it?
That's correct.
But nothing new in the system that we don't know about?
Not yet. If you can, a couple of things that we're looking at into the future. One is there's going to be a press release next week, I believe, press conference on October 1st that's going to launch this tool to the community. The second thing will be ordinance revisions. We have Tom Riley and Chet are working diligently on revising our ordinances on business licensing, and that's one of the keys to enforcement, is going to be getting our ordinances in shape. We're also still working, Steve Driscoll's working with the multi-jurisdictional computer processes. We're looking at online renewals and upfront fee collections. So all of those are things that are sort of in the works. We're actually having a meeting next week with the planning department, for example, because sometimes we're trying to figure out where planning belongs in the process. And we've had issues where someone will go and rent a building or buy a building and they'll make all these changes, and then they'll find out at the back end when they go to apply for a business license that they're not zoned correctly. So we're trying to figure those things out and who needs to be first, if you will, and how it should flow. Part of that is upfront fee collection. I will say thanks to Mr. Lawson and Mr. Carey. We did have a breakthrough last week where we're able to take payments of any kind over the phone. So we ran into a glitch where we weren't able to take credit cards over the phone for business licenses or invoices for the city or anything that people owed us, and we were able to get that in place and up and running. So that's exciting. People can call now and pay their fees.
Good
upfront.
job.
So,
Thank you.
Really, that's all we have.
Thanks, and thanks to Chet for initially putting the BLAST team together and working on this. I think it's borne some fruit, and you guys are doing a good job. We really appreciate it. Another tool for the public to use.
Great.
Thanks.
You know, if I could, real quick, Mr. Mayor, one of the greatest assets we have to date is this computer system, and Rich has done a remarkable job. But I think kudos should be given to Sherry Flynn over here, who is the head of IT, who really helped us get this going and illustrates the assistance that we're getting from all the various department heads, because this is a multi-team approach. And without Sherry's help, without Chris's help, and without support from the city manager's office, we couldn't have even made it to this first step.
Good job. Thanks. Appreciate it.
That was easy.
Just for you guys.
Okay, 4.5 is presentation by Lorraine Shearer, Vice Chair of the Spark Citizens Advisory Committee. Lorraine, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I don't have a big fancy presentation. For the record, my name's Lorraine Shearer. I am Vice Chair of the Sparks Citizens Advisory Committee. I won't take up a lot of your time, but we've had an idea rolling around that we think it would be a great idea to show some kind of appreciation for the businesses or in Sparks, no matter what their size, big or small. And the objective of the exercise would be to recognize them, what they've contributed to the growth, the stability, economically, increase awareness of what the city of Sparks has to offer. And, you know, thank them for doing business and making it such a great city to work in, live in, and shop in. So if the council approves the idea, then we can facilitate it. The committee's willing to facilitate it as far as maybe contacting RGJ for some publicity or write-up, the TV stations, getting some publicity out there, getting it noted. We would design survey questions, kind of a criteria type thing, put it out there, get together with the city webmaster to put it on the site, the city site, so people could make the recommendations, because the recommendations would come from the public at large. And why? You know, it's not just going to be, well, you know, I know so-and-so and I think he's a great guy. We're going to want some kind of criteria as to why they think they should deserve this award. And then depending on the kind of input we get from the community at large, then, you know, the council could decide whether you wanted to do it annually, monthly, quarterly, or not at all. You know, I mean, it just would depend on where we go from there. So this is just the formation of the idea. And we just wanted to either get your go-ahead and approval or not with it. So I don't know if you have any questions yet, because we haven't really cemented anything down.
Questions? Mr. Lawson.
Well, I think it's a wonderful idea. We don't say thank you enough to everyone, and just saying thank you means the world. So I don't know if we need to make a motion or what, but I would also suggest that I see the chamber sitting in the back row there, that we get them involved with this too.
It would be an excellent idea.
Yeah, so.
Don't know we're agendized for a motion, but I think we can give direction, can we not? Yeah.
Okay.
So I agree with that. I think anytime we can get a little publicity for our businesses or thank our businesses that stick with us and invest in our city, I think it's great for everybody. So anyone else, any questions? Mr. Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree. I think it's a good thing to do. I'm just making sure that we have enough information on the table to go ahead and say what we're voting for. You know, to say, yeah, go out and thank businesses, but, you know, there's a lot of details of how often you're going to do it.
Right.
Always one big issue is who's paying for it, where's the money coming from. I think those things need to be fleshed out on the advisory board and then got back to us of what you're going to do.
I think you probably ought to formalize it, Adam, or whatever, formalize and make a presentation of what it's going to be, and we can agendize it and actually have a discussion and vote on it, I think is.
That's fine. We just wanted to get an idea whether we should pursue it or not
Okay.
before we did big fancy formal
Anyone else?
presentation.
Anyone have a problem with it? Okay.
Okay.
So I think
well,
it's, we're in favor of you pursuing it and formalize it, tell us what exactly it's going to be, and then bring it back on an agenda item. We can say yea or nay.
Absolutely.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Well, thank you for your time.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to consent items 5.1 through 5.6. Anybody want to pull a consent item? Mr. Smith?
5.2 for discussion, please.
Mr. Kerrigan?
5.3.
Anyone else? Okay, looking for a motion on the rest? Mr. Schmidt?
I make a motion, we approve items 5.1 and 5.4 through 5.6 as outlined by staff.
Ms. Ratty?
Second.
Did I stop you? We have a motion by Mr. Schmidt, seconded by Councilwoman Ratty to approve 5.1 and 5.4 through 5.6. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passed unanimously. 5.2, Mr. Smith?
Len, could you come down?
Just give us your name for the record there, Coach.
Executive Director of the Chamber.
Len, for me, this started at the one of the luncheons you had, and we were sitting at our table, and up on the board, we had all the sponsors up there. And we noticed Sparks was a major sponsor, $10,000 a year. What we did also notice was Reno was not. So when we came to the funding meeting, I believe in January or February of this year, we asked you about that funding level. Why weren't they up there? And you said they were at a different tier, $5,000 level. So we said, well, why don't we go with that level also? It was never mentioned to us that that did not include the membership for the year.
Well, it's never included membership.
Well, we didn't know that. The $10,000 did.
No, it didn't. It's never.
Mr. Carey?
Sorry. Your question to me, sir?
When we paid the $10,000, did we also have another bill from the chamber?
No, sir, it was
Included.
inclusive. Yes, sir.
So, I don't know what's going on. I'm not crazy about this $1,700, $1,300,
Well,
because we've been the major sponsor for several years, and our
this year
membership was included.
This year, your $5,000 was as a sponsor of Star Spangled Sparks. It was not as a major sponsor, although we did, as a chamber, agree to, not with you, but we agreed to do all, or commit to all of the benefits that we had given you in trade before. When we went down, that was the question we had when we were at the meeting, is that this sponsorship was no longer a corporate sponsor. It was a Star Spangled Sparks sponsorship.
It was still never mentioned that we still had to pay dues to the chamber. And I assumed, and Mr. Schmidt was there, and I think the mayor was there, but I did not hear that we had to pay dues on top of the $5,000.
Well, I'm sorry about that, but you were sponsoring only that event. You weren't a corporate sponsor. And I might add, and I'm sorry about the miscommunication, because I might add that every corporate sponsor pays for their dues aside from their
I get that now, but
their
it
corporate
wasn't
sponsorship.
presented that way at the meeting, is all I'm saying.
Okay.
You know, it's, we thought we were, because now you're talking just a couple $1,000s difference between the major sponsor and,
Well,
after you pay your dues.
there's a couple ways to look at it. The $5,000 sponsor, we in turn pay back $1,500 or $1,600 for the use also of the facility. And if we were to include also the membership, that would be the whole $5,000. You wouldn't have a sponsorship for Star Spangled Sparks.
all I'm saying is it was never mentioned.
Okay, I agree that it wasn't.
Okay.
Mr. Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Smith is correct on many accounts there, and I'm just going to go on a record that, you know, there's clearly one person that this whole snafu's shoulders fall on, and that is mine. I have made an error here. 2 years ago, we had tremendous discussions about this between Mr. Stevens and myself and the committee, and we paid a membership on top of that, on top of our $10,000 donation. I felt it was very, very unfair. Last year, the chamber included it within our package, and so we did not pay it. And then this year, I thought our motion at the tourism mark was for support of a $5,000 corporate membership, not the Star Spangled Sparks, because we've clearly made the decision that the Star Spangled Sparks had some problems legally of falling into that funding stream, and so unless I'm wrong, the motion was made that it was for the $5,000 corporate membership, and at that time I did not go back and negotiate the membership to be included, and it's my oversight. I knew it's been an issue for the last 3 years. And all I can say is that it won't be an issue from this point forward. We get this issue resolved, I will make sure that any donations to the chamber, we write that contract on it, that it's taken care of. I think it's upsetting to me that we're having to come back after a tremendous amount of time and effort to do this. It just does not appear to be right, but it's clearly my fault. It's nobody else's fault on this. It's not the chamber's fault. It's my fault for allowing this to go through and not getting all the I's dotted and T's crossed. So please accept my apology on this.
Well, I also apologize too, because obviously my assumption is that we're doing business the same way we do with all the other corporate sponsors. So that for whatever reason, whether it's not Councilman Schmidt's fault or anyone's, it was just a lack of communication on that part. And my assumption was that we were doing something just like we do with every other contract that we have. And the only upside I would say is that the city is no longer paying 2 memberships for 2 different chambers. So there is a discounted, obviously it's less than it was when you were belonging to 2 chambers. The other part of it is I still think that when we had the conversation, it was a sponsorship for Star Spangled Sparks, but I will go back and look at that contract too, because I was not at that the signing of that last contract. I think Lynn
Ray?
My only comment was going to be that this felt a lot like deja vu, because I thought we had heard this several times and I thought we had resolved it. But I think bottom line is it's important we maintain our relationship with the chamber. It sounds like we're kind of figured it out, so I'll make the motion to approve renewing the city's membership for the chamber for fiscal year 2012-13.
Do I have a second? Mr. Kerrigan?
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Ratty, seconded by Councilman Kerrigan to approve the membership of the chamber. Any further discussion?
I just want to let the council know that this will not be coming back to us again. We have my guarantee.
Okay, please vote. Passed unanimously. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it. 5.3, Mr. Kerrigan.
Yeah, I think at our retreat we had the other day that we were going to talk about the redevelopment District 1 and 2 at something in October. Is that correct, Sean?
We are going to hold a city council retreat on November 5th, which is the first Monday in November, from 12 to 4. And one of the topics was to discuss economic development as it relates to redevelopment, particularly with the lands you hold, whether you wanted to give us policy direction on that. I wasn't aware, Mike, we were going to discuss capital affairs, if that's your question. But you certainly can ask for us to look at it at that time if you'd like.
Well, I'm not sure if I think that if we want to discuss what we're going to do with our land, shouldn't this be part of that? Because we may not want to move forward with this events plaza. I don't know.
It's certainly the council's prerogative to do that, Mike. The plans we have in place for the special events pavilion area is in the center of the new street area we did complete. And this is considered very positive groundwork to make that more functional for special events. And it doesn't include any of the property discussions, which would be more central to Victorian Square.
Mr. Councilman, Chris Cobb, Capital Projects Manager, for the record, Mr. Mayor, Councilman. This project includes tearing down the block house that sits right in the center of that plaza area. It's been an issue that's brought forth by a redevelopment agency and council previously that it greatly affects the ability to program that space. This project will take care of that. Will demolish that. It will move the clock to the south end of the plaza, thus opening up that entire area and makes it more usable space for any events that we decide to do downtown. It wouldn't change any of the parcel lines that exist as of today.
Okay, but it also includes putting in an ice skating rink?
No, sir, it does.
No, I mean, a plumbing for the ice, doesn't, did I
It
not
does
read that says
include-
plumbing?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It'll create the plumbing and wet wells that are required. We'll size properly the electricity so that if in the future council or redevelopment agency decides to move forward with the opportunity of an ice rink, you would have an ability there where you don't have to rip up the improvements you've spent a lot of money.
And what's going to
putting in
happen to
place.
the bricks that everybody paid for?
The bricks are going to come out. We will salvage them and hold them on site. And when we're looking at the final phase of how the structure, there was talk of a shade structure that goes in with the plaza. At that time, we'd look at how to do the memorial bricks and where they would be placed.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Smith?
Well, and I think the meeting or the workshop we're going to have in November or October is based further on the available land we have. This consent item deals with improvements to the center. It's two different subjects completely.
Yes, sir, and you're using funds out of 1415, the
Right, and
Victorian
this
Room
is phase
Tax Fund.
This is phase
3A, 3B would be
okay.
the final phase, which
Does this
includes
include lights and
structure.
everything, or the light standards?
This does not.
No.
This
okay.
this
Just the wiring underground.
wiring underground, demolition of the brick house in the middle, redoing the electrical, which is a major portion of the work, moving the electrical out of the center and off to the west.
Okay.
Ms. Ratty?
So I definitely do support this, and we had this conversation at council before on this specific concept, where I think I agree with Mike is that I'm totally for going with 3A, because 3A is something that helps our current events, our current event producers, by making that space significantly better in terms of being able to lay out programming. And the logic around the electricity and the plumbing is you've already got it all torn up, so let's go ahead and put it in. I do think we should revisit Phase 3B, which is that next very big and expensive step, which is going forward with the ice skating rink, the lights, the plaza pavilion, because I'm not sure that we're at a place where that still makes sense doing immediately. So the bulk of this work, as I understand it, really is about moving the electrical. While we've got it torn up, it makes sense to put the new electrical and plumbing in for future projects, but whether or not we're ready to go for the above-ground improvements, I think is worth revisiting at a workshop at some point in the future.
Absolutely, and we're not moving forward. Phase 3B is basically, in essence, it's about a 90% design, but it does not, we're not going forward with construction on that. This is purely for Phase 3A.
The big part, which is moving the electrical box. And
Moving the electrical.
did
opening
go
it up.
out and get feedback from our event producers, who were all thrilled with this idea, because it would help them in terms of laying out the space.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any questions? Any other questions? Excuse me. Okay, looking for a motion? Ms. Ratty?
I'm sorry, I'm not on the right page. I don't know if somebody else want to take it.
Looking for a motion? Mr. Smith?
Move to approve 5.3 as outlined by staff.
Do you have a second? Mr. Schmidt?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Smith, seconded by Councilman Schmidt to approve 5.3. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes 4-1. Mr. Kerrigan is a no. Okay, let's move on to general business. Seeing that we have quite a group here from Reed High School, would the council be okay with moving 6.4 up to the next item above 6.1 and getting taken care of? Any problems with that? Pardon me?
A motion if you want, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Move that up.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 6.4, Mr. Cobb, put you right back in the seat. Consideration of possible award of a Reed High School baseball field improvements informal quote to Oak Crest Landscaping in the amount of $22,754.46. Mr. Cobb, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Chris Cobb, Capital Projects Manager for the record. Before you this evening was a request that came to engineering staff to go out and take a look at what needs to be done at Reed High School baseball field for improvements for play this spring. Based on that, staff met with Washoe County staff from their engineering as well as their athletic director, and Frank Beadart with Odyssey Engineering. He was working out there pro bono. From that, we developed a project that is before you this evening. It includes removing grass and areas in front of the bullpen, creating a DG warning track, recreating the arc in the outfield, and redoing the irrigation to bring it up to a playable surface. With that being said, the funding for this would be coming from Fund 1402. Originally in the CIP, we had a project, Deer Park Sand Filter Project, for $22,000. We had a savings in a project in Fund 1405, which is ad valorem funding from the state. It's very restrictive in how you use that money. The requirements of the Deer Park Sand Filter Project meet those requirements of 1405. So with savings we had from a prior project, we would do the Deer Park Sand Filter in 1405 using state ad valorem funds, and then turn around and use the 1402 funds, which are from franchise fees, to build this project. So you would not be losing anything from your CIP projects that you've approved this year by doing this project. It was a request. I do have Frank Beadart with Odyssey Engineering here. He can explain the more intricacies of the project, as well as I know the Reed High School principal and athletic director are in the audience. Have you any questions for them?
Yeah, let's see if we have questions for you, Chris. Any questions for Chris? Ron Smith?
No, I'll wait
For the
talk to the
okay.
athletic director.
We do have quite a few people from Reed, I believe. Raise your hand if you're from, okay. And also Mary Besco is here, the principal from Reed High School. And make sure I acknowledge her this time. I didn't last time. So, Mary, thanks for coming out. We appreciate it. I know you have a busy schedule.
Ms. Visco and Mr. Combs is the athletic director.
Mr. Combs? Thank you. Okay, you want to bring up Mr. Beadart?
And he can put up a map for you.
Ron Smith.
Before you do your presentation, I know that are we calling it the Reed Baseball Club? What are we calling this now? You had an informal name before. Oh, what's it called?
We're calling it the Dugout Club.
Dugout Club?
It's a group of the baseball parents, or all the baseball parents.
Well, one of the reasons that I wanted to bring this forward is we went out to the field, Mr. Schmidt and I went out there, and the playing conditions out there were terrible. I mean, I believe, and I was told, that all your home games for next spring were now away games until you fix the infield. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. And so the Dugout Club did raise $12,000 and some change. They spent almost $9,000 on the infield right now, and they were looking for some help to finish off the field. To me, it was an embarrassment that they had such a field in the city of Sparks, and I know that we talked about this last meeting, not about Reed, but about coming forward for donations when it's a Washoe County School District. But I'll just say I think that they are our partners also. So
Yes.
Go ahead.
Washoe County has given us some money to also do this infield, just so you guys are aware. Originally, the infield last spring was determined to be so insufficient that we weren't allowed to use it this summer for our summer ball team. The parents have got together, raised that money, like Councilman Smith stated, and we were able to complete the infield. The problem was it pretty much burned up all the money we'd raised, and we were looking for some help. There are some areas on that baseball field that really, really need some help. What we've asked of the city of Sparks to help us with is the skirt area out there. And that project involves a DG warning track all the way along both the first and third base lines. Oh, thanks, man. All along the first base and third base lines, as well as redoing the grass areas between the foul line and that DG warning track. And that involves also the improvement or the modification of the existing irrigation system out there to work with this new grass area. We just want to let you know that we are dedicated to more fundraisers at this time, because beyond this work, we still have a lot of work to do with the outfield next spring. Right now, the football team, they have no place else to go to practice, and that area is going to be a big concern as well next spring. But we've committed to help do some more fundraisers and do that portion of the project as well.
Just, I have one question, just for the public, so they know. How did the field get in this amount of disrepair, Mr. Bedard?
There's been a lot of things that have happened. One being is we've really had a turnover in coaches the last 4 years. These poor kids here, especially the seniors now, they're looking at their third head coach right now. It's kind of been, well, one thing is this field is old. It's worn out. It is flat wore out. The football team being out there doesn't help us as well. Not having a head coach for the full year to help with the administration to take care of this field has also been another thing that just kind of let everything just kind of fall to the wayside. We've just committed ourselves to try and get this back to a program that it once was. The parents have, and with the help of the administration right now.
Was there some vandalism or something? I thought I'd heard there was some vandalism maybe.
Yeah, and I don't know that whole story, but somebody actually, supposedly another school did some rock salt terror to the infield.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
It's the head coach's responsibility to keep the field up during the season, before the game, after the game. That's correct? So that's why you allude to the different coaches and maybe not caring as much, I guess, for the facility?
Yeah, it's a case that you don't really have a representative to stand up and say, hey, we need to do some work here, parents, administration, whatever. It just kind of fell to the wayside.
You said Washoe County come up with some money for you?
The school district came up with some insurance money that was given to the school to help us with the subgrade system in that infield out there.
Okay.
Any other questions? We do have some public comment too. Mr. Schmidt?
How much did the school district come up with?
$2,900, I believe.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Bedard or for Chris? Okay, I do have a public comment. Mr. Bates, Robert Bates. Come on up, sir. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Robert Bates. I'm here on behalf of the Sparks Youth Foundation to speak against the $22,000 for Reed High. My understanding is that the funds were for beautification of the community parks. This is an isolated park that is used by a very limited amount of people. Reed High has, through turnover of administration or coaches or whatever, Youth Foundation has in the past spent $13,000 to rebuild the backstop at Reed High. Shortly thereafter, because Babe Ruth were holding their games there, shortly after the backstop was done, Babe Ruth was told they could no longer play games there. Youth Foundation has donated money to the lights on the baseball field at Reed High, and they have also been told that they can no longer use those. It wasn't until 2 years ago that the SYFL youth program, who paid rental on the fields, was told to not come back to Reed High. They would have to find some other place to play. They ended up playing their games out at Golden Eagle. I just think that if this money is for the community, parks, beautification and stuff, you have fields at the north end of Shadow, northwest end of Shadow, that is used by people every day, youth organizations, which also pay to the Youth Foundation, and that money goes back into parks. It's used by people walking their dogs, parents, groups of individuals out there playing pickup games on the weekends that could use a lot of help as well. Mr. Smith alluded to he was sad to see that a park was in that shape. But if you go see those fields on the north end of Shadow, some of those fields, the sides closest to Sparks Boulevard, it's as hard as Sparks Boulevard with patches of grass going in it. And this is where our youth is playing their activities. Okay, this is where our parents and our kids and families are going to hold picnics and walk their dogs. Now that the fences are up around the high schools in the area, I don't see how anybody from the community is going to be able to use the fields that this money is supposed to be used for. Okay, this is going to be used by a select group of people, not the people in Sparks. I mean, they're people in Sparks, but not the majority of the people in Sparks. I just think that if we have this extra money, we should spend this money, pull it with some other money, and do some real improvements to areas that the entire community can enjoy, not just one group of individuals.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bates. Questions, Ms. Ratty?
First of all, I just wanted to, so Mr. Bates tried to contact me before the meeting, and we did not manage to connect, so I wanted to thank you for coming to make public comment since we didn't manage to connect before the meeting. And then I'd like to ask Mr. Mingus a question, if I could, and we'll let you off the hot seat.
No problem. I don't mind being here.
You look very
And are you on the board of the Youth Sports Foundation, or how are you?
I am a representative for Sparks Pop Warner.
Okay, so that gives you a seat on the board of the
That
Youth
does
Sports
give us
Foundation.
I am a voting member on the Youth Foundation. Mark King is in Philadelphia,
Okay.
so he asked me to come in his place.
Okay, great, thanks. So I said in the retreat that the way that I was getting close to being able to support this, because I do have this ongoing concern about, there's all these projects in the community, and whether it be the county or the school district or ourselves, we're all struggling figuring out how to maintain our capital projects. And so, but if there was a nexus, then it would be helpful for me to be able to get to a yes vote on this project. And the nexus, as I understood it, was that this was a joint use facility with Parks and Recreation. So this is a joint use facility?
Shadow Mountain is, yes. We
Shadow-
have a joint use agreement with the Washoe County School District for jointly developed facilities. This would now, I believe, become a jointly developed facility, this amenity of that facility.
This baseball park.
The baseball field.
Okay,
Would
so
then
it-
become a jointly developed facility, is my understanding, if the funding were to be awarded today.
Okay, so it's not a joint use facility today, but the
Currently,
idea
no.
would be that it would become a joint use facility if we get involved with helping to maintain it.
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay, so then would the Youth Sports Foundation have access to the fields?
I don't know. Robert speaks correctly on the history and the groups that are no longer allowed to use facilities there, but I'd have to look back at the agreement. It is dated 2000, I believe.
I'll leave it to you, Mayor, if you want to.
Go ahead, Robert.
Okay.
The agreement, I'm sorry.
It's on, it's on.
Okay. The agreement is as such so long as we have permission from the school. Okay, so, because we did look into that. We've looked into everything for all the different schools. It's the same with Dilworth. They always have first right of refusal, essentially saying that if their program is going on at the same time as a youth program, their program's going to take precedence. The youth program is not allowed to use it. Okay? The other problem is with all due respect, and I don't know any of the people in here from Reed, okay, but if you have a change in administration, the agreement can change as well, because it's up to them to have to say yes or no. And we went through that with the SYFL, and I'm not an SYFL guy, okay, but we went through that with the SYFL when they told them they could no longer use the Reed facility. We went through that with Babe Ruth when they were told they were no longer could use the Reed facility, because the coach in charge said that there's too much usage on it at that time, and it needed time to heal, and then they just never renewed it after that. So Youth Foundation has given lots and lots of money to the city of Sparks to help maintain sports complexes and facilities in the form of purchasing fertilizer, over $60,000 to put lights up at Dilworth to make that turf area usable. Okay, and the Youth Foundation, when they came to the city to ask for $1,700 to help with the Dilworth project, were told no. The Dilworth project easily has 30 to 40 times the amount of individuals that use that Dilworth turf field than would ever use the Reed High School baseball field, as far as outside community.
And so,
Go ahead.
just to be clear, so Parks and Recreation is doing no programming on these fields?
No, we are not.
We are not. Okay.
The foundation is set up to work with all the affiliated youth sports programs, and they schedule all the fields and then give the schedule over to staff, city staff, and then we issue the field permits based on the schedule that they've done on our behalf.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
1 second. Well, 1 second. 1 second, sir. I'll give you a chance to speak. Go ahead, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tracy, right now we have agreements with the youth group to use all of our fields and stuff, correct?
Correct.
To do their program and everything. What do we spend a year maintaining our fields right now? What's our maintenance cost for all of our fields?
I don't have that number with me today, but I can tell you that on an annual basis, we use fees from the Youth Sports Foundation to assist us with the maintenance of those fields.
But we still subsidize Parks and Recs to the tune of $2 million last year?
No.
We had general fund transfer 2 point something to the Parks and Rec.
No, our transfer's not that large, sir. It's about $500,000. It was less than that this year.
Okay.
I'll find out.
Thank you.
Okay, is that it for questions? We have some more public comment. Okay, Mr. Bates, have a seat. If we need you, we'll call you back. Thank you very much. Ron Coombs and then Mary Vesco. Just please state your name for the record, Mr. Coombs.
It's Ron Combs, actually. It's spelled Coombs, it's pronounced Combs.
Combs, okay, Ron
Sorry.
Combs.
I just wanted to touch on some of the things that Mr. Bates had talked about as far as the SYFL and youth foundations using our fields. This is my 4th year as athletic director at Reed High School. I have not been contacted by them to utilize our baseball field in that time. As far as SYFL, we have hosted them several weekends throughout the past 3 years, and we will host them again on October 13th. So our facilities are available to youth sports. I think the biggest thing in regarding the field, it is not a limited number or an individualized group of people. Anyone that's playing youth baseball in the Sparks area right now that's zoned for Reed High School is a potential member of the community that's going to be using that field. The field is in very bad shape in lots of places. We have put towards that out of the athletic department well over $11,000 in the last 3 years to try and stop or abate some of the problems that field is having. But ultimately, it's a 40-year-old field with 40-year-old plumbing, which is why we have some of the problems we do. I understand that when there's money available, a lot of people will ask for it and want it. The biggest thing for us is that this is a facility that needs help. It is a Sparks facility, Reed High School being the only 4A school in the city of Sparks. And any potential young person right now playing baseball is at some point either going to want to play on that field or is actually going to have the opportunity to play on that field, either as a member of our JV program or our varsity program, as well as the multitude of summer youth programs that we host out there, as well as clinics we host on that field. It's not a matter of that field as being a secluded field. If you've been to Reed High School, there are fences up, but our facility has been a joint use facility from the time it was built. Anytime you walk by Reed High School, day or night, evening or weekends, you will see people on that facility utilizing that facility. Not always with our permission, but Reed High School has been, since its founding in 1974, a community school. We have never turned away the community at any time from utilizing those facilities unless it is an issue of safety or if it's an issue of wear. Our facilities need help. I mean, we're a middle-aged school. We're 40 years old, coming up this next year, and sometimes we have denied access to that because it's a safety issue or because the facility itself could not handle more wear and tear. You know, we host on annual anywhere from 15 to 25 freshman, JV, and varsity football games, as well as 32 varsity girls and boys soccer games. We're one of the few schools in the area that is willing to utilize our facilities for all those things. Our baseball field is in dire need of help. That's why we're here asking for that help. Reed High School, in my opinion, because I'm a graduate of it, I grew up playing Babe Ruth baseball on that field. Reed High School is a Sparks community. It's where people come when they live in the city of Sparks to go to high school. And I believe that facility has been open to the public for the past 40 years.
Thank you, Mr. Combs. Ms. Vesco? Got a question? Okay, just a second, Mr. Combs. Got a question. Go ahead, Julia.
So, assuming that the facility was repaired,
Yes.
first of all, and that there wasn't a safety issue, are you saying that there is current capacity to allow youth sports to have access to those fields?
Yeah, I'm not guaranteeing that. I don't know if this is on.
It is on.
Sorry. I'm not guaranteeing that they would have access, but if it was something that we could make work and something was available, then absolutely. Our goal is obviously to build our baseball program. Our baseball program, for a very long time, was seen as the most prominent baseball program in the area. We are in the process of getting that back. We need a brand new head coach. That's what we currently are doing, conducting a search to do so. And primarily our goal is to make sure that the youth of Sparks that are playing baseball want to be Reed Raiders, and by doing that, we would definitely be willing to open up that facility for youth events. Like I said, I played Babe Ruth baseball there for 5 years when I was a kid. So that's something we're definitely interested in doing. But again, it would have to work based on our schedule. And we do have a very busy summer schedule out there. As Frank said earlier, we pushed all of our summer youth baseball off that facility this year simply because it wasn't, in our eyes, playable or safe.
Okay, Ms. Vesco.
Thank you for hosting us today. I just wanted to clarify regarding the fence. That fence was through grant money through the school police, and the gates are never locked on weekends. As Ron said, it's a public use facility, and as I explained to our parents, it's not a prison to keep people in, but what it is to keep intruders out, and that's what the school police base their grant on. All Washoe County high schools at some time will be fenced in. So I just wanted to clarify that on weekends when you go by, the gates will be open for your use. I've been there for 12 years, and I will take responsibility for the SYFL not playing there for a while. Our football field, and I know we're talking about baseball, but I just needed to clarify, our football field was so bad that we needed to keep all access off from it. And so for a while we did not allow it. And then I talked to Tony Farrell of the SYFL, and they have been playing on it again. So we're trying to get them back into it. If you notice, my husband drives for City Fair, and he said, "What are those boulders doing in your football field?" Well, that was a suggestion from the Washoe County groundskeepers that we put them on there because we have what we call weekend warriors. And I walked out there with our maintenance people, and I was so embarrassed with our first game, and the same way with baseball. I saw our first baseball game last year, and I said, what is wrong with this field? Something needs to be done drastically. So I really do thank our dugout parents for coming forward and saying, we need to do something together, because this is a Sparks High School, and I think it's one of the premier high schools that you have.
Thanks, Mary. Question? Jay? Say, we'll let you, okay, there you go.
Thank you for coming. What efforts have been made with the school district to fund capital improvements of the field?
I'm sorry?
What efforts have been made with the school district to fund the capital improvements of the field?
Ryan can answer that better, but I've been working with the grounds crews to find out what we need to do to make the ground better. I mean, I know that in baseball that the ball would take a hop and go right and left instead of forward. So I've been working mostly with the grounds crews to find out what our folks should be doing to either, I think it's splicing rather than, I'm not sure of all the technical terms that you have for the grounds, but I've been working with the groundskeepers to say, what can we do to make these playable right now? Ron could better answer what we're doing with the school district and getting funds. They really don't have funds that they can give to high schools for grounds. They can help us with things. They give us their tillers, and the city of Sparks has been very generous in loaning us some tillers to do with our fields, but that's really the financial help that they can give us and their expertise. Does that answer your question?
So there's no hope that the fields will end up in the capital improvement plan for the school district?
Probably not, because they don't have a lot of money in that capital improvement plan. I think a lot of it was used this year. I know that they did a lot of cement work around the schools, and I'm sure that they have a whole litany of what they've done, and we could easily get that for you from the school district. But I don't think capital improvements will pay for sports fields. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Mary. Appreciate it. Mr. Carey.
We did contact the Washoe County School District, and the superintendent is going to be prepared to make a presentation to the council in November concerning their shortfall in funding for the repairs and maintenance at all of their schools. And one of the challenges that the school district does have is there is a great shortage of capital funds for existing school facilities, be it roofs. You saw Sparks High School get some repairs, things like that. So I think that that's part of the key, is to hear from the school district and find out what their directions are for the future for all of the parts of the schools that come together and make them part of our community.
Okay, any other questions? If not, let's bring it back to the council for action. Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to go on record to my issue with this. I'm going to support it because I think that we've got to go ahead and work on out there. I don't see someone get hurt with an injury on it. My concern, and for all of you out there, you either pay taxes on the house that you live in, or your parents or whoever you live with pays taxes on that house. And it's broken down into basically three categories: Washoe County, City of Sparks, and Washoe County School Districts. The City of Sparks is the smallest, I would bet, on everyone's tax bills, that the City of Sparks is going to receive less than the other two entities on around here. I call this a double taxation, that you pay for Washoe County School District through your taxes. You pay for the services for the school district. You pay for them to be smart enough to how to manage their money, how to do repairs. And I've heard for 12 years that I've been on this council about no money in Washoe County School District for repairs. And in 12 years that I've been here, there's been no solutions to the problem. So I'm not really convinced that in November we get a presentation there's a solution to the problem. And it's probably something that you're going to have to live with for a long time, because they're just not, they just have not been able to figure out how to do that. It makes it very, very difficult when we're taxing the citizens of Sparks for something that would go to something else in the city. You're going to transfer it to a district that's already being taxed and is supposed to be responsible with their money. I just caution that this can't happen very often. You know, this is something that is very, very rare that's going to happen, and if it happens today, I would probably expect that would be the last time it'd be done. And what I would like to see, that if you're awarded the money, that you come back to the city council and the school district with a game plan of how you propose to take care of your fields. If you're going to wait for the Washoe County School District to come up with a game plan of how to take care of your fields, all your fields, baseball, football, and everything, you're probably going to be back searching for money in a few years of what to do, because they're not going to come up with a game plan for you. So I would really appreciate it if you receive this money to come and present to this council how what the next 10 years look like and how you're going to solve these problems, and not let them get to where they're at today. Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
You know, and I know in better economic times, I know McQueen High School, their parents got together and put in artificial turf on the football field, and I know that the Reed football team's been trying to do that for years. So I understand that the parents coming up with the money is a tough deal. But I do applaud the Dugout Club for the fundraisers they've done, the money they've raised, and the infield looks great, if you ask me, because we were out there and it was dangerous to play on. Continue with your fundraising efforts. And if you get this money today, I'd like to see you back here, too, to tell us how your season went. Okay? And I'm ready to make a motion if
Do we have any more questions?
Yes. Well, I'm going to have a comment. I have to agree with Mr. Schmidt that this is a double taxation. And while sports changed my life, and being a football player led to me getting a full ride football scholarship, and that changed my life tremendously, and I know it can change your guys' life. And you have one great baseball player from Reed who's doing very well with the Florida Marlins, or not the Marlins, the Rays, and I happen to be friends with his family. What a great success stories come out of your program. But that being said, the double taxation part really bothers the heck out of me. And we just approved for the seniors at our last meeting to subsidize Washoe County. Now you're asking us to subsidize Washoe County schools. You know, what's next? We're going to subsidize Reno. So my problem with the whole thing is that we're subsidizing because the city of Sparks has done a good job in managing their money. We've been the first adopters of many of the tough decisions, and you're seeing that now, the benefit that our city's running very smoothly. So I'm going to support your guys' money, but it's going to be very hard for me to do it again. So I would definitely like to see a plan. I'm a huge supporter of sports, love that part of it. I mean, like I said, it changed my life, and I know it will change these kids' lives too. So, but we got to have some long-term situation. And we're not the people that you should be talking to. It's the Board of Trustees at Washoe County School District and the Board of Regents. Those folks are the ones you need to bring the fight to. Thank you.
Ms. Reddy.
Well, I mean, I have essentially the same issue with perhaps a slightly different spin. I mean, I recognize that the school district doesn't have enough funds. And so the fact that the school district doesn't have sufficient funding for the ongoing costs of education, let alone capital improvement, and particularly the funding to bring older schools up to par with the newer schools, is a huge issue for our community. And if we choose to vote yes on this, we're going to solve one small problem that really affects all of you, but it doesn't even come close to addressing the structural problem that the school district has, because our county school district does not have access to the same types of funding for capital improvement as every other school district in the state. And the school district has gone down. I mean, you're trying to put it on the Board of Trustees, and I appreciate that, but the Board of Trustees has gone down to the legislature the last at least 3 sessions in a row trying to figure out how do we get a funding stream for capital improvement. So I would actually say that you need to take your argument to the state legislature and figure out how do we get adequate funding for our schools through the state legislature process so that you have the ability to do the capital improvements that will help older schools have the same opportunities that the newer schools have. That's really the problem in my mind. And, you know, maybe it's double taxation, but what the problem is in my mind is a very, very small pie that we keep cutting into smaller and smaller slices, and I think the pie needs to be bigger. That said, I can't vote yes on this until I know that there really is going to be a joint use agreement in place, so it does make it a joint use field, and that there's going to be a conversation with the Youth Sports Foundation about having access to that field. Because the only way that I can make a nexus between putting the City of Sparks money in is if there's a benefit to the City of Sparks Parks and Recreation Department, and we delegate that authority to the Youth Foundation. I understand safety. I understand it may not be this year, but if we're going down this road of helping maintenance, then I want to see steps forward towards the Youth Foundation having access to this joint use facility. So if the maker of the motion will add that we'll support this funding as long as there's an agreement that, including in that 10-year plan, is when the Youth Sports Foundation gets to get back on some of those fields, then I can support it. But if not, I'm not going to be able to vote yes, because it's not as much as I'm a Reed High School graduate, sports have been important to my life. I think that youth sports are incredibly important, but we can't keep funding everybody else's need. You make it accessible to the Youth Sports Foundation, then it's our programming as well. So if the maker of the motion will go there, then I can support it.
Mr. Kerrigan.
Yeah, I always hate buzzing in after Julia because she steals my thunder, and I was going to say, and I said this, we've supported, since I've been on the city council, schools in Sparks. Whether it's double taxation or not, here's the thing. You guys can't get it from the school district. Where else do you go? Yeah. We have done a good job on securing some money. We've made some tough decisions here. All of you guys live in Sparks. All of you are voters. All of you are taxpayers. And I have no problem with this. Both my daughters graduated from Whittier High School, too, so I should probably disclose that because of a little prejudice, but who cares? But, you really need to go to the legislature and pounce on them. We're trying to help you out here because we're all neighbors, and I have no problem with this at all, only because there's nowhere else to go, okay? And I hate to say it, but we're from the government, and we're here to help. That's like the worst thing you can ever hear, but at this point, I think it's really true. So I have no problem with it, but I really do wish you'd listen to Julia and pound on some of the new legislators. There's a whole bunch of them are up for re-election, and some of them are brand new. They're just going for their first time. So when they knock on your door, this is what you should tell them. Okay, this is what we need. Get down there and find a funding source for capital improvement for our school district. And how are you going to do that? If they don't have the answer, say goodbye, and I'm not voting for you then. Okay?
One comment from me, I didn't think that you were going to come here and get a government lesson, is what you're getting here today, about double taxation, and I'm looking out at the crowd here, and you have no idea what that means or what it means. All you know is you have a baseball field that's in disrepair and you need to get it fixed. Like Mr. Kerrigan said, fortunately, we've been very frugal with the way we spend our money in the city of Sparks, and we are able to help you, but we're not going to be able to help you forever. I'm in favor of this. My daughter went to Reed also. I went to Sparks High School, I'm sorry, a long time before any of you were ever thought of. So I understand what sports. I played sports, been a big part in my life too. Some of the fields that I played on were worse than the ones that you're playing on now, believe me. And we lived right through it. But I know now in the day of litigation, everybody wants to sue everybody, and I know we need good fields to play on. So I'm sorry you had to have a government lesson here today, but it is what it is. I'm in favor of this. I think I'm in favor of it because, you know what? It's the right thing to do for us to do. Questions, Mr. Schmidt?
I just wanted to make a comment, Mr. Mayor. There's all this disclosure going on about how sports is important to their life, and I can tell you that sports wasn't very important in my life. When I went out to play baseball, it took about 6 months to figure out I was left-handed, and they were trying to treat me like a right-hander. And so then I went for wrestling, and in sophomore I wrestled at 93 pounds and 5'8", and I got slapped all over the map. And so I went out for basketball, and a coach said I was too short. Well, I graduated the second tallest of my class of 2,000 students in that high school. So I never made the basketball team either. So it hasn't been very important to me, but I still think this is an important program. So.
Okay, any other questions? If not, looking for a motion. Mr. Smith.
And I played basketball and baseball. Now all I would do is watch the girls. So you'll get to that point. Oh, you're already at that point, aren't you?
It's not working out for you.
Yeah, it's not working out for me at all. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve 6.4 as outlined by staff with the stipulations from Councilwoman Ratty. Will that cover you as far as the Youth Sports Association?
Do you have a second? Mr. Schmidt?
I'll second it, and just would like just some discussion. What is that contract? They just opened the facilities up for the youth based upon the testimony we heard of scheduling issues.
The availability of the fields and
as availability
yes.
comes.
If it's a joint use facility, we should have a joint use agreement in place. And so I want to make sure we get the joint use agreement in place. And then I just want to make sure that there's a meeting with the Youth Foundation to get understanding the fields are in disrepair, but when can those folks get access to those fields?
In agreement? Okay. Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Schmidt. Everyone understand the motion? Okay, seeing no further discussion, please vote. Kerrigan, you jumped the gun.
Sorry.
Passes unanimously. Thanks, folks, for coming. Appreciate it. Don't forget to think of us when you're out there playing. And good luck in the season. Thanks, Mary.
Well, she's leaving the door.
What? Double taxation. What the hell do they know about double taxation? What are you thinking about? They'll learn about double taxation in the future. All they want is do we get the money or not?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move to 6.1, consideration and possible acceptance of a local emergency planning committee grant in the amount of $5,940. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Great, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. For the record, Captain Millette, Sparks Fire Department Training Division, HAZMAT Coordinator. I'm in front of you today to possibly accept a grant that's been awarded to the City of Sparks for some specialized firefighting equipment. What this is a 75-pound Purple K, which is a type of extinguishing agent, rolling fire extinguisher that would be actually placed in the back of our new foam truck that we have. What this is utilized for is for pressurized petrochemical type fires that we would find at the distribution facility over here, the old Barry Hinckley facility, and the tank farm. So this is a LEPC grant, actually from CERC and a United We Stand type process. The total amount of the grant is $5,940, and I just come to you to accept this grant.
Questions for Captain Millett? Mr. Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just discussing with the city manager and Councilman Kerrigan that at the last agenda item took us an hour to spend $22,000, and we spent $1 million in the 10 minutes before that. So not to try to break any records here, I'd like to make a motion we approve this grant as outlined by staff.
Mr. Smith?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Schmidt, seconded by Councilman Smith to approve 6.1. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Screen's down.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thanks, Captain. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Council. Mr. Mayor?
6.2, review, consideration, possible approval of a 2-month extension of an exclusive negotiating agreement between the City of Sparks, Redevelopment Agency of City of Sparks, and 1864 Real Estate Development, LLC.
Mayor Martini, council members, I am Armando Ornelas, City Planner. Back on March 26th of this year, the City Council and the Redevelopment Agency Board approved a 6-month exclusive negotiating agreement with 1864 Real Estate Development, LLC. The ENA granted the developer an exclusive opportunity to prepare a proposal for redevelopment of the 2 parcels at 916 and 918 Victorian Avenue owned by the Redevelopment Agency for a restaurant and bar use, and if the proposal is ultimately approved by the Agency Board and City Council, to acquire and redevelop the property accordingly. This agenda item asks the City Council and Agency Board to consider and approve a 2-month extension of the ENA. The reason I'm here asking you for the extension is we were anticipating having bringing the actual DDA forward to you this month. In anticipation of that, I had the property reappraised because that's required for establishing what the fair market value is if we're going to potentially dispose of the property. The new appraised value compared to the May 2011 appraised value was sharply lower. It fell from $200,000 to $90,000, primarily because essentially the appraiser now is no longer ascribing any value to the buildings on the site, and so that has required the developer to need some additional time to basically do a couple of things. One is to determine the effect of what this lower appraised value is on their underwriting for their loan. They are using the SBA loan guarantee program. They've been through underwriting. They need to go back through. And then secondly, to look at the impact on feasibility of whether or not it still makes sense for the developer to ask for a write-down on the value of the land. It may make more sense for the developer to simply offer to pay the agency the fair market value, the $90,000, and not be subject to the prevailing wage requirement, or it may not, but they want to at least look at that, and they need a little time to do that. And so based on the answers to those questions, they would need to revise their project proposal, and we would still hope to be in front of you within 2 months with an actual development agreement for you to consider.
Questions, Mr. Lawson?
Ready to make a motion.
Go ahead.
All right. I move to approve the 2-month extension of the exclusive negotiating agreement between the City of Sparks, the Redevelopment Agency of the City of Sparks, and 1864 Real Estate Development, LLC, for the redevelopment of 916 and 918 Victorian Avenue.
Mr. Ready.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Ratty to approve 6.3. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passed unanimously. Thanks, Armando. You next?
I'm next.
6.3, review and consideration and possible approval of an exclusive negotiating agreement between the City of Sparks, the Redevelopment Agency of the City of Sparks, and AED Investments, LLC. Go ahead.
Mayor Martini, members of the council, once again, Armando Ornelas, City Planner. This is a new exclusive negotiating agreement, and this would be for the 10.2-acre parcel that the agency owns on Marina Gateway Drive. I have a map that I can throw up on the screen if you would like me to point out where that is for you. If not, I'll move forward. AD is a real estate investment firm, development firm led by Bill Irwin and Robert Aitchison, I believe, and they're here in attendance. They are requesting this exclusive negotiating opportunity to essentially do the same thing that Mr. Quinton very quickly, here is East Prater Way, here's Marina Gateway Drive. The Legends project sits down here to the south, and the 10.2 acre parcel that the agency owns is located right here and outlined in blue. So that's the parcel. They are looking to have the same opportunity that basically the agency provided to Mr. Quinton and his partner, and that is to have some time during which they can look at the feasibility of developing a project that would be composed of a series of specialized residential medical care facilities for the elderly. The project potentially could be 100 to 120,000 square feet in size, and it could have a development cost of between $51 and $62 million. Because of the nature of the project, which is highly labor intensive, it could, in addition to the construction jobs, potentially create a very significant number of permanent jobs, potentially 150 to 300 permanent jobs. And so, again, they need time to prepare a detailed proposal, really look at the feasibility of this project, and the intent would be for us to be back here if they determine that the project is feasible with a development agreement in about 6 months or within 6 months. The exclusivity provision is essentially that the city and agency agree to negotiate exclusively with AD regarding possible transfer, disposition, or use of the property for the term of the ENA. It does not, in and of itself, though, confer them the right to buy the property. They had been in contact with agency staff for several months. They've made the formal request for an ENA. Staff conferred with the agency chair and vice chair, and what we did was to go out and basically provide a 3-week window for other parties who might have an interest in the property to get their foot in the door. So we published in both the Gazette-Journal and the Sparks Tribune on August 4th. We asked for a letter of interest. That's it. That's all it took to get your foot in the door by August 24th. We did not receive any other letters other than from AED. I will note, though, that last week I got a letter proposing a joint venture from a housing developer. Given that we received the letter well after that 3-week period had closed, and given the very uncertain terms outlined in that letter, I think staff is still recommending that you approve the ENA with AED Investments. So, in a nutshell, we think this is a good opportunity to look at a proposal to redevelop the property in furtherance of the agency's and the community's interests. There's potential here for significant assessed value to be created and potentially a significant number of permanent jobs. And so for these reasons, Sparks is recommending that the agency board and city council approve this ENA. As I said, representatives of the developer are here if you have any questions for them. And with that, I'll conclude my presentation.
Question, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Armando, who is the developer that submitted the late letter?
The developer is a firm called Silver Wing Development. It's the letter came to me not from them directly, but through a commercial broker, and they are active in Northern California and in this area, doing some single family and multifamily development.
Are they located here in Sparks, or where are they located?
They are headquartered out of Walnut Creek.
Thank you.
Mr. Kerrigan.
Armando, when if we grant this, we're going to talk to them about the property worth, correct?
Yeah, I think.
I mean, what's the? Do you guys want us to write down the property? I mean, let's just.
I think we certainly had the discussion about the write down on the value of the land, but I think that they will need to do the same analysis that anybody.
Because I was just going to say, on a $60 million project, if we write it down, prevailing wage kicks in, correct?
Prevailing wage would kick in if we do any write down on the value of the land. I've made them aware of that, and so they would need to factor that.
And have we had that appraised lately?
We have not had it appraised, Mr.
Okay, so you're going to have to do that, right? Get it appraised?
Yes.
And then on top of whatever the price of the land is, there's like a lien for the,
There's
what,
an
600
SAD
grand or
payment.
something like that?
And they would, certainly, staff has represented that, we would expect the developer to assume that SAD payment. I think there's about a $600,000 balance on that.
Okay.
Questions? Ron Smith, you done, Mike?
Yeah, I'm just worried about, what the prevailing, or what the price of the land is now. Hopefully you'll get all that.
We will get the appraisal. Appraisals become stale for our purposes after 6 months, and so I try to time the preparation of the appraisal.
Mr. Smith?
Is the negotiated agreement for 6 months or whenever?
6
how long
months.
does it take?
It's a 6-month agreement. There's some provision in the language of the agreement that if basically we have a proposal and we're ready to come to council, but it hasn't actually made it on your agenda, there would be some extension. But the proposal is due within 4 months.
Okay, and I'll ask the developer, you can do that in that amount of time? Okay.
Well, there's not much negotiating. We have the land, they want it. There's 600,000.
No, I mean,
how much are you going to give us for it? I mean, you can do that in 3 days, right?
It's really about them having the period of time to do their due diligence and flesh out the feasibility of the project, and then the terms for conveyance of the land.
I'm ready to make a motion if there's more questions.
Go for it. Questions? Shoot, Mr. Smith.
Okay, I move to approve the exclusive negotiating agreement between the City of Sparks, the Redevelopment Agency, the City of Sparks, and AED Investments LLC for the redevelopment of the agency's 10.2-acre Marina Gateway Drive property.
Second, Mr. Schmidt.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Smith, seconded by Councilman Schmidt to approve 6.3. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passed unanimously. Good luck, gentlemen. Hope it works out for both sides.
Or 3 days.
Yeah, 3 days.
Yeah, maybe we'll send Mr. Kerrigan with you to negotiate. Is that all right? Thanks, gentlemen. 6.5, approve the City of Sparks' membership in the Western Nevada Development District, WNDD, and appoint one member of the City Council or the mayor and an alternate as designated representatives for the city. Mr. Kerry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you're aware, with the state passage of AB 449, the governor launched on an aggressive program to reposition Nevada for economic development. With that effort, we began a recharge effort here in northern Nevada to find solutions to streamline and improve our ability to attract jobs. Part of that effort was to find ways to work regionally. And one of the things that was written into our newest regional strategic plan, authored by EDAWN and accepted by the state of Nevada, was to begin to seek collaborative ways to access federal funds. Up until this point, Washoe County has not been part of a certified economic development district, which would qualify it for the use of Department of Commerce funding. Your decision today would allow the City of Sparks to appoint a member to an existing Western Nevada Development District, which is certified and can use federal funds for initiatives which would benefit the city and this larger region. Your program cost would be $4,512 for the balance of this year, prorated for the remaining 3 quarters. The board is set to consider membership on October 9th. Therefore, it's timely for you today to accept a membership and appoint someone to begin acting as a director. I also see it as a very good opportunity for a member of the council to work in 8 county with 8 other counties, and certainly the city of Reno and Washoe County, to begin to build a more regional voice for some of the needs which we can best cooperate from at an elected official level. And so I'm kind of excited to see this coming there. I will return after you, if you approve this item in a few months, I think a report back from the council member. One of the things that we also can put on this working group are members from the private sector. And I thought that it would be good to get a little bit of a track record, seeing what the organization does, and then shape a council decision as to where you want to go with members of industry that could also serve as advisors to this district. So there are more appointments to come, but I thought the most important would be for you to get an alternate today and then someone to begin attending the meetings, and that would be your prerogative to make those appointments today if you choose to move forward. There were two suggested motions. The first part is to join the WNDD, and the second part is which authorizes payment, and the second part is to make appointments. Thank you, sir. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, Mr. Kerrigan?
Yeah, I think this, Sean, I think this is a good idea. I know, I looked at some of the members from, I think it's almost, like you said, almost every county up here. Ed, I think you're probably the person to sit on it.
Yep.
Do you want to do that?
Absolutely.
Then I want to know who would like to be the alternate. I haven't voted.
First meeting is next month.
What days?
They do move on. It doesn't meet monthly. I would say it's mostly a bi-monthly committee. It moves to each of the 8 counties they like to move around. Their last meeting was in July, and it was out in Winnemucca. So the commitment does involve experiencing all 8 counties in northwest Nevada.
I've done that before.
Woo-hoo. Winnemucca, love it.
You can fly it.
Yeah, my corporate truck.
No, that's it. I just want to know.
Mr. Ratty?
Put it on overdrive.
Was that a motion?
No, you're.
Yours was not a motion?
What's that?
Yours was just a comment, not a motion?
No, I just want to know, didn't you want me to make a motion?
I'm prepared to.
Go ahead. I've been following you all evening, and I'll do it again.
Okay. I approve the City of Sparks membership and authorized payment of the prorated billing of $4,125 and incidental cost of membership in the Western Nevada Development District. Further, I move to appoint Ed Lawson as the elected representative of the city and Ron Schmidt as the alternate for the board.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions? Mr. Schmidt?
If I could have the maker change the motion on the amount, it appears that we have discrepancy. I think it's $4,512, not $4,125.
So amended.
I'll change my second for whoever was dyslexic and put it down that way.
Mr. Carey?
I appreciate that. I apologize for the error.
Motion by Ms. Ratty, seconded by Kerrigan, to approve the membership and appoint Mr. Lawson and Mr. Schmidt. Mr. Lawson is the regular, and Mr. Schmidt is the alternate. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Pass unanimously. Let's move on to 7.1, public hearing, possible approval of the consolidated plan annual performance and evaluation report, CAPER. Mr. Ornelas.
Mayor Martini, members of the council.
You've assumed quite a few duties here. I don't remember you doing this before.
It's a new duty. One of the conditions of receiving HUD funding, and specifically our CDBG grant funding, is that we submit a CAPER, which is basically the annual report that we do for HUD. It also has to cover our participation in the Washoe County Home Consortium, and we basically need to line out for them how, and for the public, how we spent our CDBG funding over the last year. And so this is for 2011-12. Which ended in June. And basically, the highlights are in the staff report. We used the maximum that we can, the 15%, or just under $85,000, to help fund the provision of services for the homeless at the Community Assistance Center. Total funding for that center, for the CAC, provided by not only Sparks, but Reno and Washoe County, is about $1.5 million. The city allocated $160,000 for our single-family owner-occupied housing rehabilitation home loan and emergency grant programs. Those are the programs that George Graham administers. We spent $136,791 on for loans and grants and administration, and made 13 grants or loans. We allocated $275,816 for pedestrian improvements, and this was the project that we did on 7th Street between Prater and Victorian Avenue, and on the adjacent side streets. Of this amount, we spent about $242,757. We still have a little bit of work to do to try to get some additional landscaping in now that the weather is cooler, that we didn't want to do this past summer. And then the projects that were done or funded by the Home Consortium are allocated or are described in quite a lot of detail in both the Cape Rand and the staff report. The CDBG regulations require a 15-day public comment period or longer. We did publish notice on September 7th. The draft has been made available to anyone who's requested it. We have not received any public comments to date, and if you approve the submittal of the report, then we need to get it in by HUD by September 30th. So if you have any questions, I'll do my best to address them.
Questions for Armando? Okay, this is a public hearing item, so I'll open it to the public. Anyone like to speak to this particular agenda item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council for action. Ms. Ratty.
Some great projects in there. I move to approve submittal of the consolidated annual performance and evaluation report for program year 2011-12 for the City of Sparks 2 HUD.
Do you have a second? Mr. Kerrigan?
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Ratty, seconded by Councilman Kerrigan to approve agenda item 7.1 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passed unanimously. Moving on, comments from the City Council and City Manager. Comments from the public? Okay, seeing no further business, we're adjourned.
Okay, we'll call the order of the Sparks Redevelopment Agency meeting of 9/24/12. With a roll call, please.
Chairman Ron Smith.
Here.
Agency members Ratty,
Here, sorry.
Lawson,
Here.
Martini.
Here.
Kerrigan,
Here.
Schmidt,
Is that a multiple choice question? Here.
Chief Administrative Officer Carey.
Here.
Agency Attorney Adams.
Here.
Agency Secretary Patterson here. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Now I'll open up to public comment. Anybody in the public wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the agency. 3.1, consideration of possible approval of the minutes of the regular Sparks Redevelopment Agency meetings of August 27th and September 10th, 2012.
Move to approve, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion. I heard a second. And a second. Any further discussion?
I missed the agenda.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. I did what?
I missed the approval agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as
Okay.
presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. I kind of knew it would. That's why I skipped it. Number 4, report of claims and bills approved for payment and appropriation transfers for the period August 9th to September the 9th. Looking for a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Number 5, review, consideration, and possible approval of a 2-month extension of the exclusive negotiation agreement between the City of Sparks, the redevelopment agency of the City of Sparks, and 1864 Real Estate Development, LLC.
Move to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Number 6, review, consideration, and possible approval of an exclusive negotiated agreement between the City of Sparks, the redevelopment agency of the City of Sparks, and AED Investments.
Move to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Number 7, comments. Comments from the agency or Chief Administrative Officer. Any comments? Okay, I'll open up the public. Comment. Anybody in public wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the agency.
Aye.
And we are adjourned.